Hello there. Welcome. First of all, let me just say Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And those of you who have watched us in 2023 and or 2022, I want to thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments and your questions, and especially for those of you who have prayed for us throughout this process. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. We have some very, what I believe are interesting topics coming up in 2024, and we will have some more of our regular panelists. You saw them in the introduction going across. It's just been me for the last few because I wanted just that one-on-one interaction with myself and the clients, not clients, I'm so used to saying clients, and the guests that we had on. So the Cookie Man is a little bit under the weather. So if he coughs a little bit, if he sneezes a little bit, if he blow his nose a little bit, it's all good. Okay. As long as he does it in that direction and not over here, because sister ain't trying to get none of them cooties. Okay. So tonight we have a very, very interesting topic. Hey, sis, and an amazing guest. Tonight's topic is Father, where are you? Okay, and I wanted to do this because I believe that fathers in general and Black fathers in particular very often get a bad rap. Now, I know that there may be some who might deserve that bad rap, but I don't think it's all of them. And I think that there are more good fathers and more men who are attempting to and working at being good fathers than there are those who are not. What do you think, babe? I'm sorry, I caught you with the tissue.
I know, wow.
What are your thoughts?
I would say yes. It's kind of a area for me it's kind of hard to answer that question. Because I've had that long gap with my father growing up. I mean, he was there in the beginning stage of life, and my mother was never married. And life dealt me the hand that as I got older, he wasn't there. But in regarding the question, when you said that they are trying to do better over the years, and I'm glad, even though I might have felt a certain some way, even resented it, my father at this point has done a tremendous job.
Yes, he has.
To mend whatever fences that try to fill in that gap. So I'm happy that we talk and we laugh and we've had time to spend time with each other in California,
in North Carolina,
to our, what do you call that?
Vow renewal.
So I'm glad that he's had an opportunity, or we have. And actually, I've even had that same problem with my own son.
You
when
did.
When there was some issues, and I called myself hanging out there, and I forgot. What it was like to be a father. I was being more about myself and forgetting that I had a responsibility.
I ain't forget.
And like everything else, there's a price to pay, so to speak. And it took a while for me and him to mend those fences. So
our oldest son,
my oldest son,
Hammy, because we have two sons. And I just want to say, in terms of my father-in-law, he has been and continues to be an amazing grandfather to our children and his other grandchildren, and an amazing great-grandfather to our grandchildren. So I just want to give my father-in-law props for that. So I'm going to bring on our guest for this evening. None other than, wait, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Mr. Roney Kellum. Hi, Rodney.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. And if you would, just share with the viewers a little something, whatever you want to share about yourself.
My name is Roney Kellum. I was actually born the year that's on their shirt back in
really?
And so I call myself, I'm a fatherpreneur. And there's certain things that led up to me becoming that version of myself. But everything that I do has to work in a way that allows me to be the most present and engaged father that I can be. My children, each and collectively, have changed and saved my life, literally, physically, several times. So everything I do is based around how can I be more present and engaged with my children. And I'm just thankful to be here tonight to get to share some of that story and hopefully inspire some men and women to look at fatherhood in a more positive light, maybe start some healing and some relationships.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I just want to give a shout out. Hey, Jackie. Hey, Sister Leo, Reverend Leo. So good to see you. So, Rodney, there's one way that the dictionary defines father. The dictionary defines father as the male parent of a child. But I'm wondering, how do you define father and fatherhood?
So that leads me to my own story of my dad, and I use that word specifically and intentionally because I've never met my biological father. I know his name. I know I have a first and last name, but I've never met him. And the man who raised me, James Bailey, who's now passed away, was my mother and he were high school sweethearts. And the story goes, as they told me, when I was 9 months old, my mother called him up and said, I had a baby for us.
All right.
And that man adopted me in the way that I never really realized I was adopted because he loved me so well. And I never had that I'm missing something in my life so much that to this day, I honor him as my dad, my papa. We called him Big Papa. And so the way that I define a father is the biological progenitor of children, right? Even though the biblical definition is a little bit different. But the way that I see is that a father may or may not be there, but your dad is the one who's present and engaged. Because the term to me specifically, I can't put on everybody else. But that term dad, or I like Papa, was the one that was there every time I needed him. And so for me, the term dad, it has much more love behind it, endearment behind it than that word father, because around the time that I was born and the generations and the decades after, that term father really started to have a negative connotation because so many people where I grew up, originally in Pasadena, California during the crack era, so many of the fathers got caught up in that system and those, I'm not sure I want to go down that rabbit hole, but got caught up in so many of the systems that were at play, whether it be the prison system, the drugs, the gangs that were available in Southern California, and they just weren't there. And I know we're going to talk about that later, and I'll stop my definition of father.
Okay. Well, Rodney, you and I have something in common in terms of biological father, because I did not meet my biological father until I was around the age of 16. Until that time, I thought that the man my mother was married to was my father. And I can't even remember now what compelled her to finally tell me that he was not my dad, my father. But I met my biological father when I was around the age of 16 and attempted to have somewhat of a relationship with him, but it just never took. And we were never able to really develop that relationship. So, yeah.
No, I wanted to address that what we were just talking about. And, I'm trying to find the right words. Obviously, like I said earlier, my father and I, we had that gap when I was growing up. But I had a man who, like you said, I would describe him as dad because he was there every day. Even though he was like a 2-story brownstone. Me and my mother lived upstairs. Him and his children and wife lived downstairs. He's deceased now, Mr. McCain. But we were as far family. And for me, that as a young kid growing up, yearning for a connection to a father figure, that was so excuse me, so important to me that I can look at him and feel that love. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
It's all right, baby cakes. I know you're trying to hold back your emotion, but you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can let it out because men cry too, right, Rodney?
Absolutely, and it's necessary.
It's quite all right, yeah.
So if I can ask Rodney, what do you see Hold on, I should have put on my wife. Now my wife asked me, could I see this question? And I said, yeah. But anyway, what do you see as some of the challenges of fatherhood? Okay.
So I'll stay with the current, to 2024, right? That's the year we're in now. Mm-hmm. And because of the work I do, my whole view of the challenges of fatherhood has completely changed. And so even though I have my dad, I was predominantly raised by my mother. Mm-hmm. And so what made my frame of the view of the world of fatherhood was hearing how young women at the time when I was young talk about the men in their life. It was rarely positive, right?
Right.
A lot of bashing, a lot of what he did and didn't do, and he ain't no good. And so my mindset up until the past 6-7 years, when I started getting into actual fatherhood work, not just being a father, but working with fathers, listening to case managers, has completely shifted. And I'll tell you the story that was told to me that shifted my perspective of fatherhood and why I think fatherhood has more challenges now. So I was working with some case managers that work for like DFACS, which is Department of Family and Children Services. Like they may have a different up where you live, but kids get in trouble or parents can't take care of the kids. That's the people who comes and talks to them. But this branch of that part of DFACS works to get fathers back involved in their life. But it was specifically women, 2 women. And they told me a story of why a man has 6 children by 6 women. So the way I grew up meant, oh, he's no good. He kept dropping our babies. He ain't no good. And that's what was in my brain. That's what I thought as a man.
Yeah.
They told me the story from the frame of when he was a little boy. This little boy was raised predominantly by women, no men in his life. He was their little man. They dressed him up like their little man. Made sure he had everything he wanted, loved on him, spoiled him. And when he became of age, found a little girlfriend. She ends up pregnant. They all flip on him. They all of a sudden say, you need to take care of your responsibilities. You got to be a man, step up. He's never seen that a day in his life.
Right.
Now, his mother and people that raised him don't want nothing to do with him. And the woman, the young lady he has a child with, she tells the same story. You ain't no good. You ain't bringing home no money. They knew he had nothing in the first place. So he goes to the next woman, needing somewhere to live, telling his sob story for the purpose of survival. She takes it, oh, poor you, and he repeats the cycle over and over again. So we can look at it from one side. He got 6 children by 6 different women. He ain't no good, but we never learned the story of how he got that way.
Right.
And I hear this story now over and over and over, and it makes it, man, we beating down these men that never had an example of how to be just a man, not just a male, but a responsible man. Or a father that was present and engaged. They don't know what that looks like.
Right.
So all of a sudden you pregnant. What does that mean to me? All I know is what women do for me.
Right.
So he's taught. And just like myself and Mr. Chase, we had that man that sort of showed us an example of manhood, of how to be responsible. And so now you take on that and you add the various systems that are at play that truly work against men, specifically Black men, where I work in Metro Atlanta, being involved with their child. You could talk about the welfare systems. You can be living in the same house. A man and woman can living in the same house, going through financial struggles, unmarried or usually unmarried. And if the wife goes there, or the young lady, the mother goes down and files for food stamps, they make her put a father down.
Right.
So unbeknownst to both of them, a letter comes in the mail saying you owe us child support for your child. And now he looks to the mother of his child like, why'd you put me on child support? She said, I didn't put you on child support. And she did not. So now he's on child support. And if he doesn't have a job and certain circumstances may happen, he may lose his driver's license. If he loses his driver's license, he drives a suspended license, he can get arrested. He can go to jail.
Right. Right.
So now this cycle starts. Now he's unemployable. So there are systems at play that make it very difficult in 2024 versus 1964, before a lot of systems were put into place. So I would say because of the challenges going from my lifetime, the 80s and the 90s, which I'm sure Brooklyn, New York was a lot like Pasadena, California, and Sacramento, California back in those times, was a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, a lot of men getting killed, a lot of men going to prison. That generation was missing. And the people that they raised, people like me, we're doing our best to say, because even though my dad wasn't there, my father wasn't there, I want to do better for my child. But then they didn't ever learn how to be a husband.
A husband, right?
And then they get into the child support system. And then they have child alienation, which means if you're not really present and engaged within that first 5 years of the child's life, it becomes harder from age 1 to 5 to ever become re-engaged with that child. Not impossible, but harder.
Yeah.
So I would say there are systems at play that definitely make it more challenging now, because and then you have a lot of social narratives that pit young women against young men. Women.
Yes. Say that again, brother. Say that part again.
They pit us against each other.
Yes.
Because they truly don't want to see us succeed. And if you look at other, I'm talking about Black folks. That's what we are. I happen to be some of the bright skinned kin, but that's still my people.
Right.
Is that the things that we're taught, mass miseducated, is that we don't believe in marriage. We don't see the value in it. We think it's not for us. But every other culture, every other ethnicity, the ones that hold on to that value grow strong communities.
Yes.
And we think about it as a one-to-one thing. I'm not getting married. But if 1 million men say I'm not getting married, that's a we're not getting married. If 1 million women say we're not getting married, that's a million. That's a we're not getting married. So as a collective, younger people under 30, specifically under 35, they don't believe in it. And where I live in the state of Georgia, we have something that's the only state in the country, as far as I know, where if you're not married to the mother of your child at the time that the child is born, you are not legally recognized as the father or legitimized.
Right.
And you can be on child support and have your name on the birth certificate, but have no legal rights to your child.
Wow.
So if you pass away, you can't pass on inheritance. If you happen to be a medical doctor and there's a medical emergency, they can't call you. They got to call the mother. And the mother got to give the father permission to speak on behalf of the child. These are some of the things that in Georgia specifically that make it another boundary to being a present and engaged father. So the answer is, I think it's definitely more challenging now than it ever has.
Yeah. You have hit on so much. And I think the overarching thing about what you said is that the systems that are in existence make it counterproductive for marriage. They make it easier for couples to have children, not be a real family, a husband and a wife and children. And, I say so many times, people say, oh, it's just a piece of paper. It's not just a piece of paper. There's a whole lot more involved than just a piece of paper. But if you want to say it's a piece of paper, that piece of paper gives you protections legally and socially that you don't have otherwise.
And I'll add, and a lot of women see this as it's if my child's father wants to have baby in their life, they're trying to take them from me. And I want women to realize this is not something that is taking from you. It's having a present and engaged father only adds to your and your children's life. Yeah. Let's just say for medical benefit reasons. If your child's father, like in Georgia, is not legally recognized as a father, he can't put the child on his medical benefits. If your child has a chronic illness or a special need like my daughter has, he can't cover the child because he's not legally recognized as a father. So having a father present and engaged only adds to you. Having a father giving your child reassurance only makes sure that your child becomes a great adult, that contributes to society in a positive way. It reduces their chances of going to prison, reduces their chances of sickness and disease, reduces their chances of repeating a cycle. It improves their self-esteem, especially for girls and boys. So this is because of that social narrative that it's us against them, I have the child's mine, you the father, I don't need you, is poison.
Very poison.
It's
yes,
poison.
it is. Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to, those who are viewing, I want to encourage you, because I like for this to be as interactive as possible. Any comments, any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and also show some love and encouragement for our guest, Mr. Kellum, on this evening. So I want to talk for a moment about those quote unquote absentee fathers. And we know that there are some who are absent by choice, but there are sometimes some sort of mitigating circumstances for a father's absence. So talk a little bit about that.
I've learned so much about the story of the other side of that father. And I'll say it like this. I believe the story of the absentee father, and I want to make sure I say it right without being I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it is a lot less men that have on purpose decided not to be in their child's life versus the other side, where most men absolutely do want to be in their child's life. And there was a study that was debunked. Josh Lebs used to be an anchor on CNN for years, and he wrote a book debunking the myth that Black men weren't in the lives of their children. So the correction was, even if they're not the child living with the child's not living with them, I forget the term, the custodian, they're not the custodial parent.
Custodial, right.
They're still Black men. We are the most engaged with our children of any ethnic group. That means bath time, doing homework, out of any ethnic group. So if that's true, then all the Black men not being present can't be true. Or the fathers are all absent. That can't be true. What happens is the people that are the most hurt happen to be the loudest.
And get the most attention.
Understandably so. When you're hurt, you cry out for help. You need help. But that's the story that's told over. When you go to a different part of the world and you want to learn about Black fathers, I guarantee you they have a negative perception of Black fathers.
I agree.
They have a negative perception about American men, period.
Yeah.
Because the negative stereotype, the negativity is promoted and put on a loudspeaker greater than the positive side. And I think you have a husband right next to you that can attest to that. I can attest to that in my life. All the men that I know in my life, out of the however many there are, there's like 1 or 2 out of 1 million that I know choose not to be in a child's life.
Right.
And I'm talking about men that have had to be the single father versus the single mother. I know them personally, and they've raised some amazing young people that are now college age. So from my life experience and then getting into the work, I know the narrative is all messed up. And that absentee thing is just a lot of the times misleading. And I say again, for the people who have experienced a father that did choose not to be in your child's life, this is not to be disrespectful, but I'm hopefully helping to change the narrative about fatherhood and Black fatherhood.
Yes.
There's a lot of us that will not just die, but live for our children.
I like that. And it's interesting that you talk about how under varying circumstances, how Black fathers particularly want to be an active and engaged parent. Because I have a client who at one point was talking about her child's father who was incarcerated. And she said, now these were her words, and that he is an active father. He is active in the child's life. And I got to be honest with you. I had a hard time wrapping my brain around that. I couldn't understand that. But because I asked her about it to help me understand how he accomplishes that. And she was saying about phone calls and visitations and about making inquiries about how the son is doing in school and having those conversations with him, either on the phone or when he comes to visit. And I said, wow, okay, I can see that. Because when she first said it, I said, what kind of new mess is this? How he gonna be active in a child's life and he's behind bars? But to me, that says how much he wants to be a part of that child's life and the lengths to which he will go in order to accomplish that. So absolutely. Yeah, what you said, that is a great point. So I know you are a part of an organization called Fathers Incorporated, and their mission statement is to engage, equip, and empower a community network of fathers and families by creating an environment of support, parental education, and positive societal narratives. So tell us about Fathers Incorporated, some of its programs, and specifically about the Gentle Warriors Academy.
Yeah, I'm grateful. And I'll try to give the backstory that helps me lead up to how I became a part of Fathers Incorporated officially. Mm-hmm. So I want to take too many hours to tell about my fatherhood story, but there have been several instances in my life that have redirected me toward the work of being a present and engaged father and helping other men do the same. Mm-hmm, and when I received and listened to that call to start working with men, I would run into Kenneth Braswell, who's the CEO of Fathers Incorporated, all around Metro Atlanta. I have a speaking engagement over here. Kenneth Braswell is there. Somebody from Fathers Incorporated is there. I go to another one. I go do 2-3 a year, and we're always in the same space. So I was doing this work, realizing that I believe God is calling the hearts of fathers to be turned back to their children and vice versa. And I believe that is a solution to the majority of this country and this world's problems. And I began volunteering with Fathers Incorporated for the past 6 years. And in the previous two, from 2021 to 2023, worked as a facilitator for classes for Fathers Incorporated, specifically the Connect program for fathers of teens and young children. And then this past year in 2023 became on full time as a program manager for Fathers Incorporated. And so Fathers Incorporated, we have something that we really believe in, and we call it the brotherhood. Because there's a lot of fatherhood curriculums. There are parenting classes. And I'm not to knock it because they're absolutely needed. But a lot of the times the curriculums may tell you, okay, you sit down at 6 p.m. At 6:15 p.m., you say these questions. At 6:30 p.m., you have dinner. And they tell you what to do. And I'm not trying to be, mean about it. But our curriculums are really a brotherhood where we bring together men that around the same age, going through similar situations. Because one of the most dangerous things that people believe when they're going through the hardest thing they've ever gone through in life is believing that they're the only one.
Yes.
I've been there several times. I thought, ain't nobody else going through this. And then they join this brotherhood where we get on Zoom, or sometime we go to the barbershop and you realize there's 10 other men, 15 other men that's going through the same exact thing. Like, how is that? I thought I was the only one going through this child support.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one going through issues with trying to have a good co-parenting relationship. I thought I was the only one where my child's mother disappeared. I thought I was the only one. And they're not the only one. So the power of the brotherhood is making sure you're not the only one.
Yes.
And not only that, but you have people like myself who work in the background and sometimes in the forefront that are working within the systems to get you the resources that you need just to even live. And then the wraparound services, like the mental health services that you provide as a counselor. We connect them with counselors when they come to the back end, and legitimation services for free. We don't charge them a penny, which is at the minimum $5,000 per child on the low end. And so we never charge anybody a penny. But we have the Gentle Warriors Academy, where that brotherhood is really the program that we wrap that around. We have something called Fostering Family Leaders. We have the Connect program. We have several curriculums that are wrapped into how can we best serve fathers and the mothers, because people think we only care about fathers. We care about fathers for the purpose of bringing them back into the child's life, or if possible, into the mother's life, so that you can be great co-parents or husbands and wives, but to raise the best children that you possibly can. So the Gentle Warriors Academy is a relatively new name around it, but the work of Fathers Incorporated turns 20 years old this year, 2024. And that was started by our CEO, Kenneth Braswell, who also, his wife, Tracy Braswell, partnered with him many years ago in the state of New York, and it moved down to Georgia about 8-9 years ago, I want to believe, maybe 10 years ago. And it is so very necessary. And I counted a privilege because when I started doing the fatherhood work on my own, all the things that I would imagine a man needs, I found that Fathers Incorporated offers. So it's like, I don't have to invent the wheel or even try, because Kenneth Braswell, Tracy Braswell, a lot of my amazing teammates that have been with this this grant that we work under from the beginning here in Metro Atlanta, they've been doing this work and building out these systems. And I get to come along with my passion for seeing fathers be more present and engaged, to work with the technical systems, reaching out to community partnerships and building community partnerships, make sure things work so that when a man calls and they call us, going through some of the toughest times they've ever been through, asking for help. And if you don't know a lot of men, asking for help is one of the hardest things that we have to learn how to do.
Oh, yes.
And so when they call our number or send us an email or find our advertisements or something on Instagram and they click on a link and fill out a form that asks some very intimate questions, that means that man is really wanting to be some help for his own mental health reasons. 2, he really wants to be in his child's life and is willing to do whatever it takes, whether they have a lot of resources or zero. They're saying, man, I gotta be in my child's life. And so I count it as a privilege to get to do that. I keep saying get to on purpose because I don't believe in got to. I get to serve upwards of 200 dads a year, reaching out to 200 dads a year. I'm a part of a team that reaches 200 dads a year that actually come into us. And so many men, even when they graduate, we have an alumni group, and we don't just say, hey, we're done with you, you're out. This brotherhood thing is supposed to be ongoing and for a lifetime. So
wow, that's amazing.
I described that well.
Yeah, that's why when I looked into Fathers Incorporated, I was so incredibly impressed and touched and moved by the work that you guys are doing there. So I'm wondering about because I know you guys are in Atlanta or in Georgia. It's Atlanta, right? Or on the outskirts of Atlanta?
Metro Atlanta. Yep. We serve outside of Atlanta too, but the majority of our men come from Metro Atlanta.
And what if someone from another state wanted to partner with Fathers Incorporated or get some information about how to start a similar program, whether it's under the same name or different name? What might that look like?
So what I do know, and I'll try to answer this question the best that I can. So I do know that there are fatherhood programs all across the country, and the grant that we work under is called the FIRE grant, which is specifically for fathers, but it's under a bigger umbrella that serves nonprofit entities that serve fathers and families all across the country. So as far on the grant side, I can't say I'm the specialist on the grant side, but I do know that the Healthy Marriage and Responsible Families, HMRF, I believe it's called. If you Google that, you probably can find some well, I do know if you Google that, you're going to find resources. And if they're going to watch this, they're going to watch and say, how come Ronnie didn't mention the so-and-so and so-and-so? Because we actually do have a website, the Fatherhood Clearinghouse. Oh, goodness. Save myself. How come you don't know that? The Fatherhood Clearinghouse, or fatherhood.gov, go to fatherhood.gov. That is a website. Thank you, Rodney, for remembering. Fatherhood.gov. If you go to that website, you will find resources and guides and publications and white papers and all the kind of research that you would need to find on how to do this work. So fatherhood.gov is a resource. And Fathers Incorporated is working to create, and if you go to fathersincorporated.com, on our website, you will see a lot of this same information about how to do that work. So fatherhood.gov is where I would start if you're outside of the state of Georgia. Fathers Incorporated, inside the state of Georgia.
Okay, good. That's great information.
So, Rodney, how do you advise a father who is not with the child's mother and they are not in agreement regarding parenting.
Yeah. I just had this conversation like this with a dad recently. And what I recommend, one, is keeping the most important thing, which is you want to be present and engaged in your child's life. And I know men personally that have been through some horrendous legal battles to be a father to their child. For whatever reasons that the mothers had decided, they believed the bad narrative, whatever it was, the men are good men, but they didn't want their child's father to be in their life. It is worth it. The battle that you may have to go through is worth it. Now, what I'm not saying is go argue with your child's mother every day, get into altercations, get restraining orders put on you, because that is not going to help you. So if maybe you have a difficult mother, dad, I highly recommend engaging somebody that's a go-between. So maybe you have a shared friend, family member, her mother, your mother, that's good at bringing both sides together, or being the mediator. Hey, he want to see the baby on Saturday for, grandma's birthday. Could you meet me here? I'll take the baby. He'll come get him. We'll bring the baby back Sunday night. And baby could mean somebody all the way to 18. I know I'm at that age where everybody's a baby now. So
I know.
I would highly recommend, if you find yourself saying hello to her, and she said, "What you mean hello?" Like, if she's at that place, do your best to find a mediator. If you can't do that, honestly, I would say engage the legal means. So if you're ready on child support, you're ready in the system, you can say, hey, how can I get a mediator so I can be present and engaged in my child's life? Depending on the state that you live in, they may offer those services. And those places that you think are the boogeyman, the defects, they have branches of their services that do that work. They have case managers that want to see the child be with both parents and help you both cope. They do want to see that. And even some child support entities have arms of their organization that do the same work. So it's different in every state. But if you can't communicate with the mother of your child, you can't effectively co-parent, you can't communicate well, engage somebody who can mediate, whoever that is, and do whatever it takes, do whatever process it takes to be present and engaged in your child's life, because that wound of you giving up hurt generations after your child, for you not being able to say, I got to keep going. When you feel like you all out of energy and you can't do it no more, do it again.
Do it again. Yeah. So looking at it from the mother's perspective, how would you advise her to navigate if the father is not present either emotionally or financially? Because sometimes those things can turn into being transactional in a way. So how would you advise that?
It can be a mixture of both. I know we've all seen it. He gives money, but he don't see the child. He comes around, but he don't get no money. What I would say as a mother is it's rarely ever proper to use the word never. But I would say in this case, never speak ill of the child's father. No matter if it's true or not. No matter if the man juggle knives on fire in front of people that don't need knives on fire, juggle, whatever it is, because you're creating a wound. If you have a son, you're talking about the image of who he's supposed to be is negative. If it's a cycle that you're in, you may perpetuate the cycle. Well, my daddy wasn't present and engaged. He wasn't. My mom always talked bad about him. Who am I to say I'm anything but? A mother, and I'll say it like this. A mother is the vessel which everybody in this earth comes through. A mother is everybody's first teacher. A mother is the first voice we ever learn to listen to. And it's also the very first voice we ever learn to tune out.
That's good.
So your tone and your words, whether they be fueled by logic or emotions, carry an immense amount of weight in shaping who that child is going to be. That child may be your child, your baby, your 6-year-old, your teenager right now, but that child is going to become an adult
at some point.
Everything you're saying is framing who the limits or the ceiling or the floor of who they think they can be. By not giving negative words, you allow that his worst to be the floor, and removing the negativity, you take off the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I know, and this is in recognition of the challenges that mothers can go through if they're the custodial parent. They have to wear the hat of the provider and the corrector and the teacher and the disciplinarian and. But please don't let that ever take you out of your powerful womanhood, your powerful motherhood. Don't ever try to put on a hat that's not yours, even though you feel like you got to. And I'm being very careful here because I know that's a hot button for a lot of women. And this is said with love from somebody who was raised predominantly by a woman. I love my grandmother. I'm a mama's boy, professed to be. But as I became a man and I began working with men, and I'm a father and a husband, I learned that a lot of the things that my mother said in her pain, even though she felt it may have been right at the moment, isn't the truth, even though it may have been true at the moment.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I absolutely agree with you because there started this trend several years ago. I don't know exactly when, but children giving Father's Day cards to their mother. I think that's a whole lot of
I was trying not to step on those toes.
I know, but that's okay. We're going to go there.
Yeah. And here's the point I would make, and I pray that somebody opens their ears that have maybe never listened to a different point of view about that. And let me do that with some softness and some real love about that. Because as I just said, we completely recognize you got to wear hats that may not be natural to you.
Right.
And you absolutely deserve the honor that you have earned every day, not just Mother's Day. You deserve the I love you and I appreciate. So I'm going to say it on behalf of every woman that doesn't have a man in their life that said it to them. I love you. I appreciate you. And on behalf of every man that may have hurt you, forgive me.
Yes.
Take a moment and let that happen, because you have a lot of the fuel behind that fire. I'm the mother and the father too. Is from pain. And we're going to take a moment and recognize the pain. We are not going to look over that pain because those wounds go deep. I recognize that. Yeah. But what I'm saying is a father can never be a mother. Right? If we know that to be true,
right,
we know that a mother can never be a father.
Right.
Even if you have to wear both hats. Even if a man that may be a custodial parent has to be way more nurturing than he naturally would be. Even if a mother has to be a disciplinarian, even though she naturally may not be that type of person. We recognize that. But I want to say with love and respect to each of our roles, each of our callings, each of our designs, you all have had to wear too many hats when you've been forced into it.
Yeah.
So that narrative comes from women having to be. Got to go work 2 jobs. Got to work a night job. Got to find babysitters. Got to be the boss. Got to boss up. Got to be the entrepreneur. Because the men in their life may have not ever gave them a great example. The men in their life may have not ever loved them properly to the place they feel safe. I recognize that. But it is, not can be, it is a disservice, especially mothers of sons. When you tell your son, I'm your mother and your father, what does that young boy grow up to be when it's his turn? Right. To be a husband and father, or just a father if he's not married to the mother of his child. And he strongly believes, because of his love for you, that the woman wears both hats.
He'll feel unnecessary. Yeah. He will feel unnecessary. Yeah.
Or he's somebody who plays the background and, to your point, is emotionally unavailable. So you got to remember, you're raising, and I say this to myself, from some of my children were babies. Yes, they come to me as babies. Yes, they come to us as babies. But they're going to be someone's husband, father, wife, mother in the future. And that's one thing I appreciate my mother for. When I came of age, and she said to me something I did not believe when she told me. She said, one day you're going to love another woman more than me. I said, ain't no way I'm going to love another woman more than me. And when I brought my now wife home to meet her, and for the first time in my life, anybody ever dated was interested in, she went around town. We were not engaged at the time, y'all, saying, this is my son's wife. And she passed away before we got married. And when I said my vows to my wife, and I said, man, my mother was right.
Yeah.
About everything. But loving another woman more like her or differently than her, I said she was right. Yeah. But that's only possible. That was helped by my mother recognizing she wasn't just raising her baby.
That's right.
She was raising somebody to be a man for somebody else.
That's right. That's right.
And we want to talk about, women raising their son husbands. That's sort of touching on that.
Oh, yeah.
Not stepping on toes, but that does happen. But because it's recognizably hard to let go of your babies. Like my oldest son is 15. I'm 6'7". He's 6'6" and growing. He's probably gonna catch me in the next 2 months. But I've always recognized since he was a baby, because that lesson my mother told me is, yes, he was small enough to fit in my hands and my forearms when he was born, but he's going to be someone else's husband, father, mentor. So how am I going to prepare him? My youngest son, how am I going to prepare? These are the things if one of those things that echo from watching this video, this interview. I want you to have that question in your head. Who am I raising when he or she leaves me? Because that's the goal.
That's right.
That they can be self-reliant. Who are they going to be? And that's what I want you to sow into your child. The person that they need to become, not just your baby.
Yeah, that's so, oh my gosh. All I got to say is just hallelujah. You are hitting so many points, because from my perspective, it is completely dysfunctional if a husband elevates his mother over his wife.
Nah. Yeah, there was a viral question that went around the internet. If you in a car, who rides in the front seat, your wife or your mother? Your wife rides in the front seat, man.
Always.
Come on, man.
Always.
Come on. This ain't hard, but what's sad to me is that is a valid question for the new generation.
I know.
That's of marrying age. They're having a problem with that.
They are.
Who comes first? Because they've never learned to detach from their mother as their source, versus their mother as their teacher. And sometimes the mother is reinforced. I'm your mother. Don't nobody come before me. And now here's something I learned from life experience, because all the people that brought me into this world are now passed away.
Sorry.
My mother passed away. I'm 42 years old now. My mother passed away at 41. Wow. My papa died a few years ago at 59. My grandmother just passed away in the past 2 years at 92. My grandfather passed away a few years before that at 89. All the people that welcomed me into this world are now gone. I don't have anybody that was my providers when I was a baby to look to call. So I really got to stand on the lessons that they taught me, as I'm the elder in my family.
Yeah.
I'm the papa. I'm the grandfather. My children have they have one living grandparent, my wife's mother. That is going to happen.
Right.
Parents, the children you're raising, you're going to raise to a level where you are going to go away. We all got to go away.
That's right.
We all got to take our rest. Who are you leaving on this earth? What have you taught them? What kind of man and woman did you train them to be on their own and in a family? We gotta ask those questions and leave those marks, because you one day You're not just going to be somebody's daughter. You're going to be somebody's mother, grandmother. You're going to be
That's right.
somebody's father, grandfather, uncle, auntie, cousin, something. The mentor, the person somebody looks up to, either as the example of what to do or the example of what not to do.
What not to do. Absolutely. Yeah, that is good. That is good. So, what has your personal journey as a father been like?
Man and woman. Life changing. And I truly believe this. I believe that parenting allows us to understand, feel, express what is known in the Bible as agape love, God's unconditional love. I believe parenting is the closest we will ever come to understanding how God feels about us.
Yes, I agree.
And let's be real about it, because people in love get married, but people in love get divorced too.
That's right.
People in love want to spend every day with each other, and then one day they don't want to spend another moment with the other person. And that's a choice everybody gets to have.
Right.
But when you bring another person into this earth through you to this world, I say on purpose, for a purpose, you don't ever get disconnected from that. Whether you made the right choices and are present and engaged, or you made the wrong choice or choices and you're not present and engaged, you will forever be that child's father, mother, dad, mom, forever, ever. And I want to make sure I keep staying on track here, because I can sort of go off.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
I want to ask the question one more time. Get me back on track.
No, I just wanted to ask about your personal journey as a father.
Right. And so I say that because each of my children, I said earlier, have changed and saved my life. And I mean that literally. When my oldest son was a baby, I had what I thought was my dream job as a video editor. And I would work 2 and 3 jobs at that time in my life. I was a workaholic. My idea of manhood was what I saw my dad and my grandfather do, which was work. And one night, it was a cold Monday night in Metro Atlanta. And when I was playing basketball, when I got done playing basketball, I had a bunch of voicemails from my job. I get home, I relieve my wife because she had to go somewhere. I call my job. They say, it's an emergency. We need you to come in. Now, mind you, it was like 30-something degrees, icy, sleet, rainy, snow outside. Not snow, but really cold outside. And my son was months old at the time. And they kept saying, we need you to come in. So I said, hold on, let me call my wife. See how long it's going to be before she comes home. She ain't coming home for some hours. Okay, it's going to be like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning before she comes home. Hey, it sounds like what you're telling me I can handle over the phone and through some emails. No. We need you to come in. Now, back in a long time ago, people did something called three-way calling, where somebody was on the other end of the line, they were listening in. So the CEO of the company I worked for at the time was on three-way, and I didn't know it. So 2 or 3 phone calls go back and forth. And finally, the CEO butts in. Hey, Rodney, this is Mr. CEO. We really need you to come in because blah, 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 blah. And I kept responding the same way because of the issue. It sounds like what I can do for you here is I can respond to this with some emails and some phone calls, especially in the morning. Now, the CEO said something to me that had me make a decision I never knew I had the power to before that moment, because this was my dream job. He said, well, don't you have a stroller he can sleep in? Now, everything in me, my mother, who had a PhD in cursology, all that wanted to come out in that moment. But everything my grandma taught me about being professional and being cool kept me cool in that moment. But I said to him, that's not going to happen. And in the second syllable of the word happen, the pin part, when I said that, I knew I was going to lose that job. Now, this is at a time in our lives, finances were not good. We were living with family friends, just had our first baby. It was tough. But that moment showed me that I didn't know that I knew this until then, that I could choose my child over what I thought was my dream job. And you talk about a workaholic who almost died. My left artery almost closed down, shut down working at that job, because I worked that job and 2 other jobs. And anytime they called me, I would come in. I almost died for this job.
Wow.
But when they asked me to choose between my son and my then dream job, choosing him Being present and engaged with my then baby changed the whole course of my life and has led me to doing fatherhood work. My daughter going through her issues and special needs caused me to change my diet and help me to lose weight and get healthy. Once again, my youngest son, who looks just like me, helps me to love myself better because I'm looking at a small version of myself. And I didn't grow up really loving and appreciating myself until I got to see a little version of me walking around, acting just like me, and realizing, man, I'm more handsome than I thought. I'm smarter than I thought. I'm more gifted than I thought because I'm looking at myself. And so my children have truly changed and saved my life. So my fatherhood is the greatest expression of God's love on earth for me. My fatherhood has extended I would have died in my 20s when my left artery was closed down unless my son helped me see that I needed to make other changes. I worked in television and broadcasting, which means I worked 24/7, 365, weekends, nights, midnight shift for a very long time.
Wow.
But he helped me shift about what my dream was, what my work on this earth was, what my purpose was. So my fatherhood for me is the greatest expression of what it means to be a man.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And, you know, when you said that there was that expectation that you were going to come in, you know, I think sometimes CEOs and those who are in upper management or whatever, they could accept that more coming from a mother than from a father.
Yes, there is no empathy for men. No empathy, no sympathy for men. We are expendable. Nobody cares about our emotional well-being. And let me not say it like that anymore. I know things have changed. But in mine and a lot of men's experience, especially in the world of working in industry, nobody cares.
Yeah.
And in Georgia's what's called a right to work state, which means they can fire you for whatever reason and not tell you why.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Cookie Man. Cookie Man's feeling not well.
Yeah. So you know, you're right. I mean, if I was a mother in that instance where I got my child and I can't come in, very well likely would have.
There was more understanding. Yeah, I think there would have been a lot more understanding. Yeah. So, absolutely. Ronnie, what's the best advice you ever received as a father?
Ooh, I don't know if I can say just one.
Well, say as many as you need to.
But I say that I'm gonna say two things that I hope helps another father.
Yeah.
If you constantly think about how either you're not doing a good job or how you can do a better job, you're doing a good job. And I want to make that make sense. If that's your constant thought is, man, how can I be a better father? Am I being a good father? Did I go and do a good job? That's a great sign that you're a great father. The second thing somebody said that brought me to tears, and I didn't know it was going to bring me to tears, is you're doing a good job. And I can get all technical and philosophical, but I don't know if I can get better advice than to say, keep trying to be better at loving and fathering than you were the day before.
Yeah.
And now that I have 3 children and my oldest is 15, I got a 9-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, I see what I didn't do right as often as I should have with my oldest son. As I was learning it, like I remember my parents saying when I was little, I was the oldest child. Yeah, I am the oldest child, oldest male in my family with a blended family, but oldest of my mother's children. They said, we had you to experiment, jokingly and lovingly. We had you to experiment on.
Yeah.
It is true with your first child.
It's true.
You know this, Valerie. You had your first child. You got all the diaper bags. You got everything in Ziplocs. Everything's neat.
Yeah.
By the time you get to number 2 or 3, you pick them Cheerios up off the floor, eat them Cheerios off the floor. He'll survive. But that first one, everything's with white gloves.
Sterile. Yes.
Careful. But, you just don't know what you don't know.
That's true.
No matter how well prepared you are, you still feel that pressure. And it's like, am I doing it right? Am I going to break him?
Right.
And I'm a big man. My hands are huge. I don't want to break him. You hold him, wife. You take care of it. you know, and that's fatherhood. But what I will say, and wrapping up the answer to that question, is if you choose to be present and engaged, what I call foundational fatherhood, every day, you decide to be the foundation in which your children can build from. Because if you think about maybe you come from a story like mine where middle class, low class families, and you look at somebody who may be 3 generations wealthy, you realize somebody in that family had to decide to change something.
Right.
And I believe if men embrace being the foundation, it's like a house. And most people care about the roof and the windows and the cabinets. But the most important part of a home is the foundation. Because if that fails, everything fails.
Everything fails.
Everything fails. And this is never a knock on motherhood. But I truly believe that if women were free, because the men that in their lives were the foundation, that they took care of the needs, the foundation, and were handling the business that we were called to handle, more women would relax into their natural roles and not feel so much pressure and stress and pain and emotional distress from having to wear so many hats. If we as the men, as painful as it can be and rewarding as it can be, decide I'm going to be the strong, firm foundation of the next 3 to 30 generations, because I've decided to make the changes that I couldn't see before me from my fathers or grandfathers, that my grandchildren are going to know something completely different. And I'm speaking from my own experience. I've had men in my life, that my dad and my grandfather, but there's some things that I want my grandchildren to never experience that I experienced.
Yes, yes.
Not because experience is not a great teacher, but I don't think certain experiences are absolutely necessary. And some of the traumatizing things we talked about earlier, the traumatic experiences aren't all necessary. You can live a great life without experiencing some of the trauma that generations past have.
Absolutely. Wow.
So hopefully I answered that question right.
Yes, those are great lessons. That's great. Absolutely great advice. And I agree with you 10,000% about that foundational piece that will allow women, because for us, we need to feel safe. We need to feel safe. We need to know that we can count on you. We need to know that you're going to be there. And when we feel that, when we experience that, and when the man in our life embodies that, you are absolutely right. We can relax and we can settle into what is meant to be our God-given role. And I just wish and I pray that all of that social media narrative about we don't need a man and we don't need this and they are unnecessary and all that, I wish that would all just disappear. I wish it would disappear because we do need each other. That's why God created the man and the woman, because we need each other. Absolutely. So anyway, I could be on my soapbox with that for a minute, so I'm going to leave that alone. So what would you like to share as your final words tonight?
With love, stop taking the poison. Like we just talked about, believing that we don't need each other. Because if we're all honest with ourselves, we have a fatherhood wound or a motherhood wound, it proves the contrary. That if you have a motherhood wound, you absolutely need a present and engaged, loving, nurturing mother. If you have a fatherhood wound, it absolutely proves that you need a reassuring, present, foundational father. And if you translate that into your current time, you as a mother need a man to be a father to your child. You as a father need a woman to be a mother to your child. Both, whether you're together or not, need to be great co-parents. You both need to come together, and your children need to see that at the very base, you all can be cordial enough for the purpose of raising great sons and daughters.
Yes.
Fathers, decide to be foundational for your family. whether that's a wife or a mother of your children, mothers of your children, whatever your story is, where no one, I want to say there's no shame in how you got to your fatherhood. But I want you to take pride and joy in how you father going forward.
That's good. Say that again, brother. Say that again. Say that again.
Pride and joy in how you father going forward. Your presence is so necessary. I want you to, every time the opposite comes into your ear, I want you to immediately reject it, whether you say it to yourself or out loud. Somebody say, man, we don't need men. Yes, you do. I love you. I love you on behalf of your father and your boyfriends. We're not going to hear, we talk about black folks right now for a minute, because we have such a unique experience in this country. And I know this for certain and for a fact. There has been no other ethnic group in this country that has been more on purpose divided by systems in this country than any other ethnic group.
Yes.
So we can no longer afford to believe any lies. That lie that we don't need each other is one of the most poisonous poisons that are out in this world right now. We absolutely need each other, and we need each other more than ever.
Right.
And if we really want to realize it, who's going to help a black woman heal from her black fatherhood wound than another black man? Who's going to help a black man heal from his black motherhood wound than a black woman? And the hard part is when you come together as two hurt people, you're going to hurt each other. But this is where I'm saying when you can make a decision. You can decide to start with saying, I'm no longer going to believe or perpetuate a lie. We need each other, and we need to love each other.
Yeah.
Now, whether you think that's mushy or sappy or that's what white folks do, that's all lies. And look at how too many of our families in the worst situation are. And if you really want to see the fatherhood wounds and the motherhood wounds show most in the most poor areas. Now, I'm not saying they're poor because they're fatherless and motherless. I'm saying the solution to start getting out of that poverty is having men and women work together to create community.
Yes.
I happen to live around a whole lot of Asian people in the area I live in, and I don't see any homeless Asian people. I don't think I've ever seen a homeless Asian person in my life.
I never have either. And rarely do you see them in nursing homes.
That's called community.
Yes.
When I see my Hispanic brothers and sisters living 12 to a house, 10 to a car, that's called community. And we've been so disrupted in our community. We are divided on purpose because we are powerful if we come together.
Yes.
So women, let those men be the fathers of your children. Fathers, be foundational for your families for the generations to come. No matter how hard it hurts, no matter if you had an example or not, you are ordained, you are purpose, you are designed to handle that weight. And the children that are going to come up and the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren are worth it. Because it's, even though it's sad, even though Father's Day don't get as much play as Mother's Day, when we do get recognized, is from what we've built.
Yes.
When we build strong people, when we build strong men and women, and they come together as adults and they say, Daddy, thank you. That is power.
Wow. That's power. Woo, Brother Rodney. This has been absolutely amazing. I want to have you back again. So we're gonna be in touch. We're gonna be in touch. This was powerful. It was inspirational. It was informative. It was encouraging. And I pray that everyone who was listening, that you get something from it, whether you are a father or a mother, whatever your role may be, husband, wife, son or daughter, there was something here for everyone. So thank you so much. And those of you who are watching, up on the screen, I have Brother Rodney's Instagram. So if you want to contact him, you can contact him there. And he is also part of Fathers Incorporated, which is down in Georgia. And there's the link for fathersincorporated.com. You can reach out to them. They have some amazing programs to support fathers in being an active part of their children's lives. It's all about education, because you don't know what you don't know. And other things we need to be taught as parents. It's not, we don't learn just when a child is born. There are things we have to learn. I was having a conversation with someone the other day. Parenting sometimes is on-the-job training. And like you said, with the first one, teaches you how to be a better parent with the second one, and so on and so on and so on. So I encourage you connecting or reaching out to Fathers Incorporated. Connect with Brother Rodney there on his Instagram page. And Brother Roney Kellum has a website that is in the process of being built. So you see his name there, RoneyKellum.com, right, brother?
That's it.
RoneyKellum.com. You can go to it now, and it might say under construction, but that don't mean you don't got to come back. That just means you got to come back later when it is fully up and operational. Because as he said, we need each other. We need each other as partners. We need each other as parents, as husbands and wives, and we need each other in community as well, to be there for one another and to support one another and to encourage one another. So thank you so much. And those of you who are watching, I'm gonna come back to the comments. My sister Jackie said it was great. Thank you, Rodney. So show Brother Rodney some love and some encouragement. So thank you. Whew, this has been a lot. I think we definitely got to have you on again, Brother Rodney, because I think you got a whole lot more to share that you didn't share on tonight. So those of you, I want to encourage you to come back again next week. If you have not already done so, if you would, on YouTube, you subscribe, like, and share Marriage Beyond the Breach. And also, I encourage you to go to Brother Rodney's Instagram page as well. Come back on next week. I forgot what we're going to be talking about next week. I got to look at my calendar right quick. I think it's going to be, hold on one second. My calendar is slow loading up. We're going to be talking about something that's called toxic positivity. I know that might be a term you haven't heard or you're unfamiliar with, but we're going to unpack it and break it down and define what it is and what it is not next week. Toxic positivity. And we have Dr. Danita Thompson will be on with us again. So thank you again. I love you all, and I'll see you next week.